Welcome to English Avenue YouTube, the channel to learn English the easy way. Let's start. The realm of politics is a stage where unexpected confrontations unfold, where every conversation has the potential to alter the course of history. Within this unpredictable landscape, powerful figures engage in intense discussions, strategic maneuvers, and delicate negotiations that can influence the fate of nations. Today, I bring you a riveting account of one such defining moment, a crucial meeting that brought together two men with vastly different approaches to leadership: former U.S. President Donald Trump and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. This is far more than a mere diplomatic exchange. It is a psychological battle, a test of resilience, persuasion, and power dynamics at the highest level. It is an encounter in which words are weapons, influence is currency, and every response is calculated. But beyond the political implications of this dramatic confrontation, this story also offers something incredibly valuable: an opportunity to sharpen your understanding of language and effective communication. As we delve into the tension-filled dialogue between these two leaders, you will not only gain insight into the complexities of international relations, but you will also acquire essential skills in articulating opinions with confidence, mastering the art of negotiation, and recognizing the subtle nuances of persuasive speech. So prepare yourself for an intriguing journey through diplomacy, strategy, and power struggles, where every word spoken carries immense weight, and where the right phrasing can make all the difference. The morning air in Washington, D.C., carried a crisp edge, the kind that hinted at the changing seasons. But the cold was not just in the weather. It was in the atmosphere, thick with tension and expectation. The city, though accustomed to high-profile meetings and political showdowns, seemed to hold its breath for what was about to unfold. A diplomatic encounter of immense significance was about to take place, one that could redefine alliances and shift the balance of international power. A jet descended gracefully onto the tarmac, its arrival symbolizing more than just another political visit. It was a call for action, a plea wrapped in the complexities of diplomacy. As the aircraft door opened, a lone figure emerged, stepping onto American soil with an air of quiet determination. It was Volodymyr Zelensky, the Ukrainian president, instantly recognizable in his signature military-style attire, a stark contrast to the tailored suits of the politicians who usually roamed the halls of Washington. His expression bore the signs of exhaustion, the kind that comes from relentless responsibility, from leading a nation in the throes of war, from carrying the weight of survival on his shoulders. But there was no hesitation in his stride. His presence in Washington was not an act of desperation, but one of necessity. His mission was clear. He was here to secure what his country needed to continue its resistance: military aid, economic support, and harsher measures against Russia. Yet, this meeting would not be a simple request for assistance. Zelensky understood the man he was about to face: Donald Trump, a leader known for his unpredictability, his transactional approach to diplomacy, and his preference for deals that benefited his own interests above all else. This would not be a mere exchange of pleasantries. It would be a calculated battle of negotiation, a test of persuasion, and a delicate dance of power. Every word spoken in the upcoming meeting would matter. Every response would carry weight. And Zelensky knew that his ability to navigate the conversation could determine the future of Ukraine's fight for survival. The moment the convoy of sleek black SUVs, rolled up to the entrance of the White House. The anticipation in the air thickened. The assembled press, stationed just outside the grand residence, had been waiting for this exact moment, cameras flashing in rapid succession as soon as the Ukrainian president stepped out. The murmurs among reporters grew louder, each of them speculating on the high-stakes conversation that was about to unfold behind closed doors. Every angle of this meeting mattered. Each gesture, each word exchanged had the potential to shape not only political alliances, but the course of an ongoing war. Inside the heart of American power, within the walls of the Oval Office, former President Donald Trump was already settled in his seat, exuding his usual aura of dominance. His posture was unmistakable, leaning back comfortably, his arms resting on the chair, as if he were the undisputed master of the room. A smirk played on his lips, a silent message of control, a signal that he believed the upper hand was already his. He was no stranger to high-profile negotiations, and this was no different. As Zelensky entered, the atmosphere shifted. Though he was stepping into Trump's territory, he carried himself with quiet determination. He was here not as a subordinate, but as a leader seeking aid for a nation in crisis. Their eyes met, and Trump stood, stretching out his hand in an exaggerated show of formality. The handshake that followed was more than a simple greeting. It was a silent exchange of power. Neither man seemed willing to release his grip first, each trying to assert dominance in a battle of unspoken wills. It was a moment that, though brief, revealed everything about the negotiation that was about to take place. "Mr. President," Trump said, his voice carrying the air of a man who had complete control of the room. "Welcome back. Long flight, huh?" Zelensky nodded, his tone serious. "Yes, a long flight, but one worth taking. This meeting is important." The two leaders took their seats, fully aware that the cameras were still rolling and that millions of people around the world were watching. Trump, always a master of showmanship, leaned forward, resting his elbows on the desk, making it clear that he was the one setting the tone of this discussion. "So tell me, Volodymyr," he said, his expression one of careful scrutiny, "how are things going in Ukraine?" The Ukrainian leader met his gaze without hesitation. "As you know, we are still fighting a war. We need continued support from the United States. Military aid, financial assistance, and harsher sanctions on Russia." A silence filled the room for a brief moment, the tension thick enough to be cut with a knife. Then, as if relishing the moment, Trump let out a small chuckle, shaking his head slightly. "You know, Volodymyr," he said, his tone almost casual, "a lot of people are saying this war could have been avoided. Maybe if you had negotiated with Putin differently, we wouldn't even be in this situation." Zelensky's expression hardened instantly. He was no stranger to political games. But hearing this from Trump here and now was something else entirely. "With all due respect, Mr. President," he replied, his voice steady but firm, "we did negotiate. But Vladimir Putin does not keep his word." Another pause. This time, the room felt even heavier. Trump, tapping his fingers lightly on the polished surface of his desk, seemed to consider his next words carefully. "Well," he finally said, flashing a knowing smile, "I like leaders who know how to make a deal. And I believe that in every war, there's always a deal to be made." Zelensky didn't flinch. He leaned in slightly, meeting Trump's gaze head-on. "And I believe that in every war there are victims. My people are dying, Mr. President. This is not just about politics for me. For the first time, Trump's smirk faded. As the conversation unfolded, the atmosphere grew increasingly strained. Sitting beside Trump was Vice President J.D. Vance, who decided to step into the discussion. "Mr. President," Vance said, addressing Zelensky with a polite but sharp tone. "With all due respect, coming to the Oval Office and trying to negotiate this in front of the American media is a bit inappropriate. You should be thanking the President for all the support the U.S. has already provided." Zelensky, unfazed, responded, "During a war, every country faces problems, even yours. But you have an ocean separating you from this conflict. You do not feel its weight now, but one day you will." Trump leaned back, shaking his head. "You don't know that," he said bluntly. "Don't tell us what we're going to feel." And then, the conversation took an unexpected turn. A discussion not about war, but about attire. One of Trump's allies, Brian Glenn, pointed at Zelensky's outfit and remarked, "Mr. President, don't you think it's disrespectful to meet the President of the United States without wearing a suit?" Zelensky barely blinked before responding, "I will wear a suit when the war is over. Until then, my clothing reflects the struggle of my people." The exchange continued, becoming more direct, more personal. Trump, leaning in slightly, spoke in a tone that made it clear he was not pleased. "You don't have the leverage right now," he said. "You need to start playing your cards right." Zelensky, growing weary of the condescension, shot back, "I am not playing cards. I am the president of a nation at war." The conversation reached its breaking point. Trump, now visibly irritated, said, "You're gambling with millions of lives. You're risking World War III, and what you're doing is disrespectful to this country, which has supported you more than most people even think it should have." Zelensky refused to back down. "This is not a game. We are fighting for our survival." Trump tapped his fingers on the desk again before shaking his head. "And if you keep fighting, what then? More war, more destruction? I don't like endless wars. I want peace." Zelensky locked eyes with him. "Then help us. Give us the support we need to win." Trump scoffed. "Win? You really think you can win against Putin?" And there it was, the real issue, the unspoken question that lingered in the air. Trump had always had a complicated relationship with Vladimir Putin, one that many believed was built on respect, fear, or something in between. "Putin is a smart guy," Trump said after a pause. "He knows what he's doing. Maybe instead of fighting him, you should talk to him." Zelensky's patience had reached its limit. "We did talk. He does not listen. He wants to destroy Ukraine." Trump leaned forward, lowering his voice. "If I were president, this war would already be over." Zelensky exhaled, shaking his head. He had heard this before. Trump always claimed he could end the war, but he never explained how. And suddenly it was clear. This meeting wasn't just about Ukraine. It was about Trump's future, his political ambitions, his need to prove that he was the ultimate dealmaker. As Zelensky stepped out of the White House, reporters rushed toward him. "Mr. President, how did the meeting go?" one asked. Zelensky took a deep breath. Looking directly into the cameras, he answered, "I came here for help. I hope America still stands with Ukraine." And with that, he walked away. This story is far from over. The war continues. The politics persist. And the world keeps watching.